they're very, very meticulous about everything. They wanted to make the game like Mario, and it is a lot like Mario in that it's very well programmed. And
Yes.
I like how they didn't skimp anything, especially in this music, man. It's absolutely beautiful.
Music's iconic. I mean, they got a J-pop a J-pop singer and bassist from the band Dreams Come True called Mesto Nakamura,
Okay.
and he composed all the material for Sonic the Hedgehog. Um, it's just beautiful music, video game
Oh,
music.
dude.
It's off the chart.
It's and even like okay, the soundtrack too, but also the stingers and all
Yes.
like when you finish the level, like for anybody that knows, stinger is like it's a production element. Basically, it's a short piece that kind of either introduces or wraps up something or
Yeah.
transitions one thing to another. So there's one at the end. It's like ba 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 na ba 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 na 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 na
Yeah.
na, whang. And I'm kind of just hacking my way through it because there's all kinds of stuff going on there. But like just being able to capture the emotion and the excitement, and then have each piece of music match the feel of the level as well,
Yes.
the design of it. Um, there's a casino level in part two where it's like this really swanky, like,
Big band
yeah,
style.
and you're bouncing around, bang, 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 bang. So it's like it's just very, very well composed, very thoughtful about the placement and the composition of each piece. Yeah, man, it's absolutely, really, really an A plus. Like most games, music is kind of bottom, lower the list, but it seemed like everything in this game was like at the top of the list.
Yeah.
The series, I mean, there was a lot of care and detail put into it.
Step one, music. Step two, mix Sonic Fest. Step one, it just
Yeah, make music better because they didn't they just made an entire soundtrack and just did it that way.
they wrote it using real instruments and then had to port it on an Atari ST,
Okay, so they
which
basically are like a keyboard type thing, or I don't know
basically
what that is.
basically they used the Casio keyboard and an Atari to get this ported over to the software that they needed to put it on,
Okay,
and to get it to work on the cartridges.
okay. See, now you could just program it on MIDI.
Yeah.
Like MIDI is extremely useful in that you can set it to whatever you want. I'm cutting it real, making it real basic here, but basically you tell it a value, and then you can replace that value later on with any instrument that you have available
Yeah.
in that library. So this was pre MIDI, which makes that even more um, impressive because that means he probably had to cut a lot of those live or just double track them
Yeah.
and wasn't able to sequence them and do a lot of things that they do now to make it easier and faster. So basically, this guy, it's like Dave Grohl cutting the Foo Fighters' first album, just laying down one track at a time. Bum, 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 bum. Okay, there's the bass. Let me do the little trumpet part, and the rest of it. All right,
Well, that and the technology of the time limited what you could do musically on a game cartridge.
yeah, there was only so much space. I think was the one thing because we were. I don't. I don't know how audio compression worked, but I don't think there was enough. I don't think like I don't know if we were putting MP3s on Sega. Like I don't know what kind of audio they were using, but if they were in like PCM format, that could have been
Disastrous.
practically, yeah, it could have been enough to take over the whole entire memory cartridge on it. So they had to get creative, I'm sure, and to find different formats that would work because obviously space was going to be the number one issue.
Yeah, definitely. And not only that, it's good music. It doesn't just fit the area. It doesn't just, fit the game. It's actually really, really good instrumental stuff.
It's very really creative melodies. Yeah, just you'll hear it's good. Like from a composition standpoint, you'll have all the elements of a good song. You have a melody, you'll have a counter melody, and then you'll have like melodies that play off and against the melody, rhythms that move in time with the main melody, interlocking, delocking, good uh, bridges, extra like second endings, just really well composed as far as the substance of the song, not just how it sounds, but the way that it's arranged.
Yeah, because these games they had to loop the sound,
Yeah,
so that right there, they composed it to where it would indefinitely loop. It's just
comfortably.
comfortably.
Because there's some games where that it just starts over.
Yeah.
And there's that hilarious one, Hong Kong 95 or whatever it is, where it's just like a 4 second loop and they didn't even try to like loop it. It just da, 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 and it's not even in time. It's really terrible. But yeah, it's so well looped you don't even realize that it's looped
No.
because it's just because of the structure, like going back to because of the structure of it, because they have the bridges and the chorus one, chorus two. Chorus two's got the counter melody or the second harmony that it didn't have on the first one. It keeps it varies it. It keeps it interesting. So you don't if it's a 4 second loop and it's perfectly looped, after about 5 minutes you're gonna start to know 2 minutes you're gonna notice it.
Yeah.
But this is long enough and looped correctly enough, and these levels are quick enough. I mean, by my guesstimate, the levels take around 3 minutes at most.
Yeah.
So that's quick enough for you not to notice if it's looped well and composed correctly.
And that's the other thing too, right? Is the last thing I'm going to say is that they went with a composer who used the technology at the time. Up to this point, I think this music was the most detailed music a video game had ever seen up to this point with these three games.
Yeah. I, it's hard to really think of anything that's that. Yeah. I always thought The Legend of Zelda had a nice array of music, and so we're talking 8-bit, going back to 8-bit, so even more limitations as far as space. But I felt like they always hit the right notes and the right moods. But yeah, I really can't think of anything else that goes this far out of the park as far as the everything on it, on the music.